Mary Holm is with me in the Auckland studio. I don't know what I was expecting, Mary. Hi.
Hi, Jess.
Good to see you.
Thanks, you too.
Tell me about your topic today.
Yeah, well, what drew my attention to it really was some research from the Retirement Commission showing that 3 out of 4 people who end a relationship, a marriage or similar, don't realise what happens to their KiwiSaver. And so I thought, well, even though it's a bit of a gloomy topic, it's just as well for people to understand about it, maybe not for themselves, but maybe for someone they know.
It's a bit like making a will. It's not necessarily something you want to think about, but your life will be much better if you do think about it. Yeah.
And speaking of wills, by the way, it's not if you die, it's when you die. If you've still got a KiwiSaver account at that point, it just becomes part of your estate, just like any other savings or any other assets you've got, and it can be spent straight away, so that if regardless of your age, if you die under 65, for example, the family can use the money straight away. So that's comforting. But
an important topic, this one about the relationships too, because I think
yes,
if you're married, actually your partner's KiwiSaver probably forms part of your retirement plan, right?
Yes, indeed.
In your mind, you think, well, we're going to be okay because my partner's got this much, and I've got this much, and so if suddenly the relationship breaks down, can be probably quite shocking for people even.
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Yes, it makes the whole thing worse if your partner's sitting on $500,000 and then suddenly it's not there. Yeah. So your KiwiSaver does belong to you. It's not like it's couple property, but if you split, it becomes part of relationship property at that point. So, and we're talking about people who are married or living together for 3 years or more here. And unless you've got a prenuptial agreement to say the KiwiSaver is not ever going to become part of relationship property. And some people do that. And that's, if you're going into a marriage and you've got very uneven KiwiSaver balances. And the trouble is with all of those situations, it feels terribly negative at the beginning of a relationship to start talking like that.
I don't know who would have the courage. Someone they've just fallen in love with and they're about to move in together and say, hey, can we just talk about what happens if the splits?
Yes, yeah, but some people do. Yeah. But most people, of course, don't have that sort of agreement, or certainly not around KiwiSaver. So, and the research also found that quite a few lawyers who are advising people when they split up don't know that much about it either, in fact. But what the deal is, what the law is that you have to include in relationship property all the money that came into your KiwiSaver account during the relationship. So if you had a KiwiSaver account before you got together, that's treated separately. But all the money that goes into the account while you're in the relationship and the returns on that money. So someone's got to make a calculation on that. Let's say you had $10,000 before the relationship started and you've now got 40. I assume that then they just sort of say, well, 1/4 of the total balance now is not relationship property, but 3/4 is. Yeah. Yeah. So when we're looking at the growth on the money, the interest and dividends and so on that have been earned over the years, but not the money you had before the relationship started and in your KiwiSaver, and not the growth on that since then. So there has got to be that calculation done. Yes, yeah, and that's the same for your ex-partner. So as an example of the sort of thing that might happen, let's say your relationship ends and you've got a KiwiSaver balance of $30,000 and your partner has a balance of $70,000. So what you've basically got to do is even that up. And so your partner gives you $20,000 so that you've each got $50,000. So you've gone from 30 to 50 and they've gone from 70 down to 50, so that you've got an even amount. Now that $20,000 can be adjusted for via other assets, other relationship assets. So if when you're dividing up all the assets, you might have a car or two and some furniture and other investments and all of that. And so you might be able to even it up like that so that your partner gets 20,000 less than you do when you're splitting it up. Yes, so...
You said you both joined KiwiSaver after your relationship started, and you've done that to make it easier so we don't have to work out what you both brought into the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had the KiwiSaver before the relationship, which these days have be becoming more and more common because a lot of people have had KiwiSaver for quite a while now, then they've got to divide up somebody, and you might have to get an expert in on that to just have a look at the numbers. Your lawyer should be able to help you work out what balance, or they should be able to get some kind of expert in to do that. It shouldn't be that hard, but as I say, if it was 10,000 before the relationship, when the relationship started, if one of you had a balance of 10,000 and it's now 40, I'm pretty sure what they would just do is say, okay, 3/4 of the current balance is although whether they allow for, I'm to be honest, I'm not sure about that, about how that does get divided up.
When you talk about dividing it up too, I mean that makes it sound easy, but you're not allowed to take money out of your KiwiSaver.
No, that's a really good question. You're not, but under these circumstances, what happens is, ideally, the balance is fixed through other assets. So the person who's got a smaller KiwiSaver account comes out of the relationship with more in other assets to balance that out. And that quite often would be how things would work. But if there aren't many other assets, then your lawyer can apply for a court order to your partner's KiwiSaver provider, ordering them to pay some of the partner's money out. So that's how that works. The provider's obviously used to this. They and that money goes either into your KiwiSaver account or into a bank account. And I'm honestly not sure how they decide which of those. Either it must be some sort of thing about circumstances. I mean, in many cases, if you don't need the money straight away, it'd be a good idea to have it go into your KiwiSaver account and just boost that then and there. But yeah, it's as you can tell, I'm not an expert when it gets down to the finer details of this, but I think it's really good for people to have a broad understanding of what does happen and what doesn't happen when they split.
Totally.
And I think the rationale behind it probably is that if, let's say, during the relationship, one of the partners takes time out from work to look after a child and doesn't keep contributing to KiwiSaver during that time, they are quite likely to have a lower balance. And that's not really fair because they've made other contributions to the relationship. So the idea is that we've got to try and keep it fair. I mean, typically it'd be the woman taking time out to look after a baby, but not always. And therefore she shouldn't end up worse off because she hasn't been putting money into her KiwiSaver while that's going on. By the way, it is still better if she can, when she's on parental leave, continue to put in enough to get the government money coming in.
Lots of different complicated situations. Laurie's been in touch. What happens with a couple where one used their KiwiSaver for the deposit for the house and the other didn't, and now they've split up? There'd be all sorts of ideas like that, wouldn't there?
Isn't that an interesting one? And let's think it through. What might be fair? I don't know. Because the house usually just ends up being split 50-50, but I would certainly, if I was in that position, explain to my lawyer what's happened there, and there might be a way of redressing that imbalance. Yeah. Are there other ones come in? Or?
Related but not quite on topic.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know if their older partner's children have a claim to their KiwiSaver upon... Sorry, could my older partner's children have a claim to my assets and his estate upon my partner's death? It's quite complicated.
Gosh. Yeah, that's...
Might be more of a legal sort of question.
Yes, and probably not off the top of my head, but no, look, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a couple of unrelated ones. If you've finished with your prepared
There's
notes,
just
Mary.
one other point I wanted to make. If you're listening to this and you separated in the past and you had a smaller KiwiSaver balance than your partner at the time, and you didn't know about this, and quite often apparently the lawyers don't know about it either, and so you might have missed out on money you could get. And one thing I read said that one authoritative thing I read said, if you didn't both get independent legal advice about the split up, then your relationship property agreement won't be legally binding. And apparently that's quite common. People have sort of just worked it out themselves how to split the assets, but they haven't done it in a legally binding way. And so in that case, you might be able to reopen negotiations and get some of that money from the partner's KiwiSaver account. So that would be something to talk to a lawyer about if you didn't sort of go through the whole formal process of separating up your assets, which would probably be especially people who are not married but have lived together but are not married, I suspect, would be more likely to have just parted ways and not necessarily looked through that. Yeah. But now, did you have a couple of other things?
Just a couple of sort of related questions. Mary, are KiwiSaver providers just finance companies by another name?
That depends how you define finance company. I mean, the sort of tighter definition is that it's like a bank, but it tends to pay you higher interest on deposits because it's riskier. But if you're just talking about sort of generally companies that are involved in the financial world, then they are a type of financial
just
company.
Lower risk, right?
Well, with KiwiSaver, yes, it's not like a finance company in that narrower definition. In that putting your money with them can be fairly risky. No, it's pretty safe, I'd say.
Someone wants to check what is considered when a relationship starts.
Yes, and I suppose, I don't know, obviously if you're married, it's the marriage. Otherwise, I suppose it's when you move in together. And of course, that can be vague too, because you can get people who are spending a lot of their time at one another's houses and then, how do you decide when the actual date of the beginning of the relationship is? But I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And one totally off topic, Mary, with cryptocurrency at a new all-time high, has your perspective on this asset class changed? And if not, how big for the market cap to grow for you to accept it as a viable investment?
Now, I've never, I don't think, not accepted it as a viable investment. If you define investment as just investing in similar to gold or silver, or they're investments, but they don't generate interest or dividends or anything like that. The only way you can make money out of them is by selling them for more than you paid for them. And these days, yes, a lot of people are making money out of crypto partly because of Trump's election. Apparently, that's helped boost what people think is going to happen to crypto. All I say about it is that I don't think it's a great idea to invest in something you don't fully understand. And it's pretty volatile, the prices of cryptocurrencies. But if you want to take, a little fling with 5% of your savings, there's a KiwiSaver fund that can do that, actually. I wouldn't say no. It's just that, you might lose it. You won't lose the whole lot, but you might lose money on it.
Bit of FOMO around with people seeing that Bitcoin price.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the same thing can be said for gold at different times, or other assets, or for that matter, shares when they've soared and you haven't been in. Yeah, I'd just, I'd go for it, especially if you've got some money to spare that you can do without. Yeah, that you wouldn't mind halving. You know. Yes. Yes.
Nice to see you. Thanks.
Yeah, you too, Jesse.
Mary Holm in as our personal finance expert today.